Hello. I would say it's been a while, but it hasn't because I just filmed a general life update video, which was legitimately half an hour long. Whew, anyone who could get through that, I'm amazed, honestly. Virtual cookie for you. So I'm going to try to reshoot this video, which is going to be difficult because I haven't rewatched the first filming of it, so there's that. But I'm going to try to talk a little bit more personable without triggering myself. I don't know how well that's going to go. We're going to see. Gonna lightly, carefully go through the meadow and juggling my dynamite. Unless someone comes home, which could happen, of which then I'll have to cut this short. So I might not even get into what I want to get out of this video. I don't know, it's all up to chance, pretty much. So, okay. Suicide. I picked, like, the most, and I think I did this intro already, but I picked the most lighthearted video to just be like, yeah, let's talk about suicide. That's cheery enough, you know? It's a bright rainbows and unicorn kind of topic to bring into the conversation of YouTube or the internet, which a lot can be said about that. But yeah, suicide. I don't want to go over the warning signs too much because I've already done that. Because I will be taking this part of the video and adding it to my other video and like editing through my other video because there's some stuff that I need to take out. So I get to do that. But I felt that I would need to refilm this other video and make a new attached video because I guess I just wanted to make a lot more work for myself, for one. I'll probably just put this at the end of the other one. I don't know. Because it will probably be a nightmare if I try to edit it in between each shot or something, which I'll probably wind up doing. And it'll be a whole mess again. But maybe I won't do it in one day. That's a thought. Don't do it in one day, Rico. Spend like an hour on it and then break a big task up to smaller little bits. I am hungry as well. That sucks. Anywho though, but yeah, I just felt that that video was lacking in seriousness, and I felt I didn't do it justice in a sense. So I was like, I probably need to either scrap that old material or reshoot it, which I'm reshooting it, so that's the logic in that. And I talked about logic, rationalities in a person without depression and someone with depression, how there's an imbalance there. Suicide is just like that as well. I think I did a blog post probably like 6 months ago. If I did in 2017, I don't even know if I did. It might have been I think it might have been 2017. I don't know. When did my friend graduate? That's a better question. I actually don't know. I think it could have been 2017. I don't know. I don't even remember what the fuck I was talking about. Shit. I don't remember. Fuck. Yeah. I'm gonna pause here for a little bit because I don't remember what the fuck I was just talking about. Nope, it's gone. It's just completely gone. Fuck. Yeah. This is awkward. This is easier to do with like another person there because then if I forget where I was at, I can be like, oh, what was I at? And then they're like, oh, you were talking about, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But through a video, I can't do that because I'm like, what was I talking about? And I can't go back and do it unless I make another like video. Like I just can't. I don't know. fuck. I feel like time is counting down and I'm like running out of time. Yeah, I don't know. Why was I thinking about my friend? Blog post. Yes, okay. I made a blog post called Suicide Ends a Life and Destroys a Legacy. I think it's a pretty bold kind of statement. And I think I want to make a follow-up post to that, where suicide doesn't destroy a legacy. Suicide is an internal conflict of contradictions. Pretty much. And it is. Like, you know, like Chester Bennington, the guy, lead singer from Linkin Park, there were so many suicides that happened in 2016, or 2017, bro. But there were so many that happened of people more notable, in a sense, amongst all the other people that we don't know as much about. That sucks a lot. I think suicide is the ultimate. It's not a decision. I mean, it is a decision. It is a decision, and at the same time, it's not a rational decision. And I think, you know how they call, like, assisted suicide, like physician-assisted suicide, that kind of thing? Like, that's not suicide. That's... I took a class, actually, I think it was Moral Issues in Medicine, where we talked about that, and, like, two things, again, as usual. We talked about that, we had to watch a documentary about it, and physician-assisted death is not the same thing as suicide. Like, suicide is a whole other plane of field. And the way people talked about it in that documentary was way different than how people were saying, like, oh, I chose to do this because, like, they had more of a rational expectation and, like, guidance and, like, influence and other opinions and things like that. Suicide is not that. Suicide is, I want to die, and I want to live, and I want to die, and I just want the pain to end, and I don't want to live like this, I can't live like this, what am I gonna do? I should just kill myself, everybody would be better off without me, I don't need to be alive, I should never have been born. Like, suicide is that. It's so much, the discussion, the talk of suicide, and what suicidality says to people is not the same thing as, like, physician-assisted suicide. Like, it's just not. And, like, I feel like that's missing a lot. Because, again, the rationalities of depression and non-depressed person, like, it's just, like, the logic used when suicidal is just irrational and illogical. Because, like, depression, other mental health conditions, other non-mental health conditions, it has the potential to make you feel as though everybody doesn't care about you, no one likes you, no one's there for you, no one's gonna know about it. That was one thing that I had thought of, like, oh, no one will know if I died somehow. Like, no one will find out about that, I don't know. But it makes you believe in these lies that aren't true, and in the moment of being suicidal, before you take your life, you believe those lies, because that's the only voice in your head telling you something, and you're alone with it. I'm gonna try not to trigger myself. And, like, suicide it ends a life for sure, but I don't think it destroys a legacy anymore. I feel like it's just a contradiction, a conflicted life and death of contradiction. Because we have people like Chester Bennington, and even Amanda Todd, like, they were people who wanted to prevent other suicides from happening, other people taking their lives. And yet they took their own lives. And it's like the person who made the Semicolon Project, she died by suicide. And it's ironic, almost poetic, and that's fucked up because it shouldn't be. Shoulds, but... But that's what suicide is. It's almost random without being random. And it's life-destroying for many lives, not even just one. And it will impact people. And people will be affected. And it's the ultimate lie, in a sense, because you believe this thing because there's no one else telling you in that moment. It feels so true, even though it's not. And it feels like there's nothing that you can do to stop it. And maybe if I just do what my brain says, maybe that will be the answer. And I can't imagine what it's like. That moment before someone takes their own life in complete suicide. Like, to believe in the lies, and to have so much pain that you would end your life prematurely. That moment, like, do they think about, like, what could have happened if they lived? Do they think about, like, what could have been different? Because that's what it leaves us with, you know? If you've been affected by suicide, it leaves you wondering, what could I have done? I do that with people I don't even know. I can't imagine what it's like to be in the front lines of, like, people that you actually knew and cared about. But you wonder why, and if there's anything you could have done to stop it. Suicide is the internal conflict of contradictions. It sucks because as someone, speaking of myself now, as someone who's been suicidal, there's so many possibilities of how it would play out in my head when I'm like that. And it's like, when I'm not in a crisis, it's like I'm in a completely different world. Like, as if I just zapped from one universe into this other universe, and I'm like, I look back on it and I'm like, how was I going to kill myself? Like, not how like, method-wise, but like, what logic, what bullshittery was I believing in that I was gonna end my own life because of that? And I think, like, I need to get a tissue. I have to see some tissues. Hold on. I just think it's like, it's fucked up, honestly. Suicide is fucked up because it makes you think things that aren't true, that aren't existing, that are a bunch of bullshit. It convinces you that you don't matter. And then it takes you away. Just, boop, gone. But yeah, like I thought back on, like, I made Twitter threads. I use Twitter when I'm in crisis now. I used to use my blog before, but my parents read that, so I have resorted to Twitter instead. Like, I don't think I would make... It's caveat, because I want to say I don't think I would make a video and post it on YouTube of me being suicidal, like, before I acted on something. But that's not true, because I have done that before. Like, when I first started, I made a video about it, and then I deleted it because I didn't want people to find out about it. Which is just the best. When you don't want someone to find out about it, that's probably you need to go to the hospital kind of thing. But I feel like there's too many steps involved. Like, if I was in crisis, I would not be able to edit a video, upload a video, wait that time. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it. So it's unlikely that, unless I pre-recorded it or something, which would be really fucked up. Wouldn't put it past me, but, but Twitter is the place I go when I'm feeling in crisis. I make really depressing, like, Twitter threads. Like, so depressing that someone actually notified Twitter and I got that, like, automated message where it's like, someone's concerned about you because you sound very suicidal, very self-harm oriented, and here's some, like, services and stuff. And I was like, oh, well, that's nice. Like, I'm like, that's so nice, Twitter, thanks. Like, I know this is automated and everything, and that's, like, really nice, but, like, still, I appreciate you looking out, you know? But, like, it's weird because when I think back on it, I'm like, how was I going to do that? Like, why? And I think in ways it's like, oh, it's not that bad. When it is that bad, you won't know it because it's so bad that you don't have the ability of the perspective to see how bad it's gotten. It's just that bad. I mean, I remember talking to my friend Kaden about how, when Chester Bennington passed away, like, we were just we hung out, like, maybe a couple days later or something, and it was just like, why didn't he go to the hospital? Like, that would be the logical conclusion. It sucks because it almost feels like, and I think this is probably a misconception that a lot of people have, so it almost feels like people don't take you seriously until you're dead. Which sucks, because if you're dead, you're probably not going to bounce back from that. Life is so strange, because you only have one life, and I've been thinking about this a lot, of how you only have one life, and do you know it when you're dying? Do you think about all the stuff you're gonna miss out on? Do you know? Do you appreciate the little things? Maybe it's because I've been watching a lot of Grey's, rewatching stuff too, and watching for the first time. It's so poignant, and, like, makes me wonder. Because you only have one life. And there's so much that could be done with it. And then mental health conditions just come, and see what happens. It's not pretty. It's not glamorous. It's not... It shouldn't be glorified. It's just sad. Like, I've always been someone who's been afraid of death and dying. and everything that comes with that, like knowing people who will die eventually, because everybody you know is gonna die. You're gonna die, and I guess just I've always been focused on that. I've always written about it, and I would say definitely like mental health conditions don't make me more creative. Like they take away the ability for me to create. And suicide just takes away life as well. There's so many people that are impacted by it. Like I don't know half the people probably. I've never known someone personally who died by suicide, and I would totally be affected by it. It's so weird because like as someone, I say this a lot, especially in my articles. I say a lot of that. Someone with OCD on self-harm and suicide obsessions, I never should have acted on it. But I did. So I think we're getting more. I hope that you're actually seeing like the shift in a sense. Like that's what suicide does. Suicidal thoughts and such, suicidal ideation. You don't. I liked a tweet actually today that said that people who struggle with suicidality, like you don't know, you can't see mental health conditions. If it's self-harm in a way, maybe you could, like the physical remnants of it, but like it doesn't show you what's going on in someone's head. Same thing, eating disorders as well, and substance use. Like you can't see it, and you never know who might be contemplating or planning to kill themselves. They say, like, you know, people who really want to die, or want the pain to end, whichever version of that you want to believe, people who really want to die will not give signs. Maybe that's true, I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't not give signs. Double negative? I would give signs, yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you just don't know who. Different decisions, different blips in time, in a sense, the Matrix. You don't know who's planning to kill themselves, and that's why we should treat each other better, and nicer, and kinder, and with more appreciation and gratitude, and kindness and compassion. Because you don't know what they're going through. Like, I don't even know. Someone could be watching this video right now and is like, oh, hey, I'm suicidal, I'm gonna kill myself. And, like, maybe something I could say could make a difference. Because when it comes down to it, it could. It's possible. And depending on what words you use and how you approach a topic as complicated as suicide, it does come down to that. And I don't think attention seeking should be like I don't think that we should think of it as good, bad. Like it's not that simple. It's very complicated. Life is very complicated. There are exceptions to rules. There are strenuous circumstances. I guess, in a way, to say this is the face of someone who has been suicidal before, and will probably be suicidal again. I mean, legit, those 4 days that I was in crisis was really shit. And, like, I had been 2 months sort of clean, in a way, from, not completely clean. Like, I had instances where I was having thoughts and things like that, but that was, like, a lot of shit compressed into 4 days. And, like, I mean, like, it kind of makes me wonder if, like, am I gonna go really good periods of time in my life where I am doing really well and then have, like, an explosion of bullshit, in a sense? Because I don't know, I think I might rather just live with the bullshit, explode it out each day, rather than have it be a huge explosion in, like, one little sitting. Like, I don't know if because that was bad. That got really bad really fast. And it was just from, like, stupid things. But it's my knee-jerk reaction. My knee-jerk reaction up to stress, I've learned, is to become suicidal, which sucks. Like, that's why I'm so afraid that life is going to treat me shit like it has. And then I'm going to change who I am and how I trust people. Because I trust people a lot, and someone's gonna come and fuck me over, and that's gonna be it. And I don't know who or when or what or why. Because there are bad people out there. There are people who are really bullshit, and you just don't know. And it sucks. And I just learned to press the delete button, in a sense, in my life. I wasn't like this before. But now I am. Any little stress, I could just, like, the microwave could explode, and I'd be like, oh fuck, I'm gonna kill myself. Like, but, like, the rational thing would be to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna buy a new microwave, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna take, like, these precautions. But no, Raquel's mind is just, oh, fuck it, that's it, we're done, we're gonna die now. I don't want to die, man. Like, I don't want that to be the last thing that I experience, and to know that I could have gotten better and, like, lived a longer life, and death is just so, it's just gonna happen. And it's not, suicide isn't about, oh, like, planning, like, oh, I get to choose when I die. Like, it's not that. Like, it's shit, and it's serious, and we need to take it more seriously, because as a society in America, in the US, in Massachusetts, it's not taken seriously. In the internet, it's not taken seriously. Don't tell people to kill themselves. That's not cool. Like, what are you doing? And I think the question that comes back to is just, like, would anyone care if I died? Yes. Do I matter to people? Yes. Do people care about me? Yes. Will they miss me? Yes. I think I definitely approached this differently. I hope that that's been helpful or something. I don't fucking know, but I felt too peppy in the last time that I made this video. And again, maybe it's because I had that dream last night. Crisis is shit, though. I apologize if I have to end this abruptly at some point. But crisis is shit. Suicide isn't rational. If I made a toast, and let's pretend that I made, like, the best piece of toast in the fucking world, right? and then like put peanut butter on it, put strawberry jam on it, because strawberry jam is amazing. I put that on the toast. I go to get a glass of milk, and the toast falls to the floor. Like, face up, right where the peanut butter was and the jam, boom, and it's right on the floor. To a rational, clear-headed person, they'd be like, oh, fuck, well, I guess you're just gonna go make another piece of toast. To me, in chronic suicidality mode, would be like, fuck it. Where are the pills? I'm gonna take all of them and kill myself. Like, what the fuck? Who does that? I do. Who does that? Like, the smallest thing could set me off. And that's so... You don't know what people are going through. I come up with a lot of excuses, I think. It's probably the thing that's keeping me alive. It's that I come up with a lot of excuses, a lot of reasons why I can't kill myself in that moment. I walked one time from my house to a nearby pond, and when I was first walking there, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna kill myself, like, I'm gonna show them, like, fuck it, like, I'm just gonna end it, because I can't deal with this, whatever. But by the time I got there, I had to pee, and I didn't want to pee my pants while I died. Like, legit, that was my reason to not die that night. And another time, it was up at school, it was before I got hospitalized in September. Trigger warning methods, things like that. I'll put one at the beginning. It's a topic on suicide. It's gonna have trigger warnings on it. I won't get into deep specifics, but like general kind of things. Anywho, I was up at school and again Twittered it out, and then I didn't want to go in the ocean. I can't swim, by the way. I didn't know how deep it was, and there was a lot of seaweed. And when I had imagined dying in the ocean, because the harbor is right there, I didn't account for seaweed. And then there was a bunch of seaweed right there, and I was afraid that if I fell into that area, I don't know how deep it is, and I can't swim, and the sea would tangle all up in me, and it would be shit. It would be terrible. It wouldn't be as peaceful as I was thinking it would be, I guess. I had this misconceived notion of how it would be, which is very accurate for suicidality. So I went home early and went out to the pond again, the same pond that I walked to before, at night, in the dark, wearing all black, because it's not good. I went to the pond, and I was like, that one was only like 2 inches deep. It was really small, and I was like, fuck! Like, there's too much water, not enough water, like, although you only need a couple inches anyway. People say that if you really wanted to die by suicide, nothing would stop you. I guess the lesson in that possible misconception, it's like the same thing of like the misconception that no one gives any warning signs, like that's a lot of people do. It's not true in a sense. But this, like, I guess the lesson in that is like, then that means I didn't want to die. And I don't. And in that moment, in that crisis, I really do. I really don't. I really do, and I really don't, and I don't know what to do. Like, I mean, as warning signs go, my number one warning sign is when I say the phrase, I don't know what to do, full stop, need to go to the hospital. Like, It sucks. Because crisis mode, you're not thinking rationally. Can't think. That's like the number one thing that you can't do. So all this bullshit about like, oh, you'll go to hell for it or whatever, like dude, this is hell. Before, you know, in crisis, that's hell. It's hell on earth, pretty much. Yeah. I think it might be all enough of what I want to say. This is gonna be like an hour-long video. It's gonna be shit. Fuck. But I haven't even. It's almost like living with suicidality is like an overflowing well, where like there's so much left to say. If I ever killed myself, there will be notes on Twitter. Not actual suicide notes, but like tweets. I hope I don't. I don't know what happened to my like social media. I guess you would just never hear from me again. That'd suck. In not wanting to truly die, I struggle with the part of me that wants to end the pain in any way possible. So I find it a little insulting when people are like, oh, well, if you really wanted to die by suicide, you would have just killed yourself, like, full stop. And it's like, I view that as like a challenge. Like, again, I have to prove something. So when people tell me, you know, oh, well, you know, you're still here and you're talking about it, you're like getting help and things like that means you really don't want to die. It's like, bitch, I can show you. Do I have to show you? Because I can do it. And it's trying to convince myself that I can and I can't. And the thought that pops up for that is like, well, maybe I can. Maybe one day. Maybe one day I can do it. I don't know. Maybe. I think we all have the power and most of the ability to do it. To complete suicide. I didn't even talk as much about what I wanted to. I wanted to talk about memories. I don't know, maybe it's better that I don't. There are things I still want to do. It always bothers me when I hear about a suicide. It's like, in my head, I think the first reaction whenever I hear a suicide happen is, what did they use, and can I use it too? Which is fucked up. I think I mentioned that before. The second thing I think of is, oh my god, fuck, that makes me want to kill myself too. Shit, that's not good. And then I wonder, you know, what was it like, and what were they thinking, and what were those last thoughts, what were those last words? Who could they have been? Who could they have become? It's one life, man. What were their favorite things? What happened to their things? Who was left behind? Life is so weird. So fucking weird. The concept of life is the strangest thing. They actually say, like the American Association of Suicide Prevention, something like that, they actually say that you're not supposed to describe the afterlife of people who've died by suicide as peaceful, because it gives people who are struggling with suicidal ideation the notion that suicide is an answer, and that's something they should go do. I read a poem once. It was called May Our Souls Rest Tonight. It was a suicide note. I listened to Ed Sheeran's Photograph. Every time I think of that, every time I hear that song, I think about that as well. It's kind of futile, you know, it's kind of futile life. Live and live and live and survive, only to die again in the end. Well, die for the first time in a sense. I don't think anyone should have to feel that they'll only be taken seriously with their struggles if they actually complete suicide. I don't think anyone should have to feel that way. Goes back to that idea that people only take you seriously once you're dead. Or people will only appreciate you once you're dead. I don't think suicide is something that, if you've never experienced it, that you necessarily have to go through it in order to empathize with other people who have been through it. I don't think that's the case. I think empathy can go a long way. I think a lot of people tend to forget that empathy exists, and they kind of insinuate that if you've never been suicidal, if you've never had depression, then you won't understand it. And maybe they won't to a certain extent, but I feel like, as someone who had empathy before I ever got suicidal, I compared it to being on a cliff. There's the person in the woods who is like, oh, suicide is a crime, suicide is like against God's will, and like all that kind of shit. Like, that's the person who was never gonna understand it. Like, we just leave them in the woods. Then there's the person on the top of the cliff, the edge, and they use empathy to have some perspective of what it's like for the person who's struggling with suicidality. And then there's the person falling off the cliff, hasn't hit the ground yet, just kind of free falling, and like time has stopped in a sense for them. That's the person who's actually living with like feelings of suicidality. Like, that's the metaphor that I use. Is like, you can get to the edge of the cliff. Like, you don't have to have gone through it yourself to know. You may not completely understand, but does anyone ever? Because only you have been through your own experiences and like your own interpretations and all that kind of jazz. So does really anyone understand? But that's usually what I think of. I don't think you have to put yourself through that bullshit in order to gain empathy to understand other people who've experienced what you have. It's like voluntarily signing up to be murdered or like raped or something. Like, oh yeah, I need to experience it in order to understand. Like, that's really fucked up. Like, no, you use empathy and you learn about it and teach yourself and learn about other people who've been through it and get an idea of it, a slight understanding, and then go from there. I don't think you have had to. People say that about like therapists and stuff too. Like, oh, if you've never been through mental health conditions or substance use, like, you won't understand things. It's like, empathy exists, guys. But okay, I think I'm gonna end this video here because I did a lot in it, and again, didn't actually talk about memories, but I don't think I'm triggered, so that's good. We'll find out. Yeah, I'm gonna end this here because I made a couple long videos today, so that's good. I don't know how this video is gonna come out entirely. we're gonna see. It's probably gonna take me a few days to edit it. But I'm gonna try to get it up before school starts. The 22nd. It's the 12th. So, yeah. And I'm gonna go get something to eat because I am hungry. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight. But, yeah. Oh, that was gross. Sorry. Yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts about it. And, maybe one day I'll actually share more about it. Without triggering myself somehow. So yeah. It was good, I guess. It wasn't very, I mean, it might have been enlightening. Not very lightning itself, but probably gonna read some fan fiction and like get into some YouTube stuff. That'd be great. So stay safe, take care, be well, and know that you're not alone. And if you're struggling with suicidality, it's gonna be okay. Please get help. Call a hotline. Go to the ER. Get hospitalized. And get through it and be a different person in a way. Yeah. Don't fucking act on it. You'll be very displeased. Unpleased. Displeased? Because you're worth it. And you can recover. And you can be okay again. Even if you're struggling. Even because of the struggle. Alright. Bye.